Winded Master in the Arcanum. But it is 4:28, and I'm 28 minutes late, which means you get 28 karma points, which puts you well ahead of everybody else. So it's not without benefit. Okay, so you're going to go up to the top left and click on the screen share button. And then you'll pull up whatever you're using to showcase your images.
Oh, okay. I had just uploaded them, but I can go back and find which folder I pulled them from.
Okay. It's fine to use G+ to see it too. That's okay. That's what Hits did as well.
I think these were the ones I put up.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to go through them one by one.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to tell me a little bit about the image, and then you're going to grade it on a scale of 1 to 3. 0 means, why the hell would you bring this to critique? What's the matter with you? 1 means that it showed promise, but that it had some issues and didn't quite make it to the success pile. 2 is a commendable one, and 3 is exceptional, basically perfect, ready to go to photography competition. Okay?
Cool. All right. That'll be fun.
Okay, so... Yeah, it's working great. I see a picture of a dog with a Frisbee and a lot of water.
I should have shown them under high resolution. I downsized them to upload. But anyway, so this is a Border Collie scoop that I was shooting for a pet resort in Scottsdale. They wanted a photo shoot that would showcase their add-on services that they offer their clients. So, you know, for $50 extra, the dog can go play in the pool. For $100 extra, it plays in the pool with a person, kind of a thing. And in Scottsdale, that's a good thing. Anyway, so I don't know if you've ever lived anywhere as hot as Scottsdale, but refreshing, cool water is what we're going for because it's Scottsdale. And so this particular shoot, it's an outdoor shoot, midday, and very difficult light. You know, I've got high contrast light from the dark shadows and the bright highlights. But I can't move the pool. All I can do is try to place the Frisbee shot the best I can to get the light the way I want for the moment. And so, over a 30-minute shoot, I probably came away with 700 images and maybe 5 or 7 real winners for, you know, dog in the right place, right time, right light. And so this is one of those images that I just really liked from the shoot for what they were trying to pull off and how things came together. So we've got good frozen motion from the water droplets, which really kind of gives the mood of the feeling and sells the experience. We see a dog playing with Frisbee, and, you know, even though we've got high contrast lights, the shadows aren't flipped to black, the highlights aren't blown to white, and we have good texture and frozen movement in the water. So I really thought it was a great shot for their company. Let me just pull up real quick. Enterprises. So this is one that they did choose to use in a lot of their social media, and then we did take and print several on big canvas for their lobby and things like that.
Okay.
And then, so this series was actually printed on metallic, so that we really got the texture and the shine of the water. So it's going to flip through some raws. We got a lot of good stop motion, you know, marketing images. And that one we printed 36 by 24. And although I love the image and it works for what they're doing, the thing I didn't like as far as showcasing this one for the critique is you missed the light, you know, but in a half hour of trying, you can only work with what you can work with. And I didn't like that the body had this nice warm sunlight and the head is stuck in this cool shadow. So anyway, as good a shot as it is, I like the other one for pieces coming together.
Now, just out of curiosity, one, do you have a set of headphones? And
no, I don't.
Okay, you have to have that for the next critique because I hear my echo in it and I can't concentrate, and so I'll stutter the rest of the critique. Just out of curiosity, which one did the clients pick to use for their marketing? The ones that you were showing me, or this one?
Yeah, several. So they picked 10, but as far as showcasing to you, this is the one that I think nailed the concept the best, the client's wishes the best, and artistic ability the best. So this one's on their Facebook, but it's not printed on a big canvas or metallic. The other action shots are what they wanted. They, being dog people, are more into the action, less into the light. So.
Good point, though. Good point. So the people that have the dog that you were photographing chose the other one. And I'm inclined to agree with them, actually. You're right. The light is better on the face for this one. It's actually still just a little bright, especially around like the back of the chops and near the ear. But you didn't blow it out so much that we actually lost any of the highlights, which is good. This is great. I love the action of the water. You would have actually scored higher if you hadn't shown me the other ones. But
Well, because you're a commercial photographer, that it's a delicate balancing act. You got to give the client what they want, and on one scale, you rate your work on what's selling, but on the other scale, as an artist, you have to pull back and say, even though they bought that image, this one's better because.
Because why?
This one's better.
Standards.
A better use of light according to my artistic standards. So as an artist, this is what I would rather look at. But for my client, you shoot what they want and you smile and say thank you when they're happy with it.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Would you rather have people look at the image you're most proud of or pay you for one that isn't your top choice?
Well, and again, it's that delicate balancing act from, like we were talking in the chat last week, you have to know your audience. Mm-hmm. And so be happy with, but that relates to this. So this image actually won a significant contest down in San Francisco that I was also shooting for a client, but he obviously wanted an image that made his cat look a little friendlier or whatever. So same thing, it's two different portfolios. What you shoot for one audience is not necessarily going to be the same audience, but you can often get it in the same session, if that makes sense.
Would you rather have the best known image or the most expensive image ever sold?
Well, shoot, you look at Gursky and Lick and, some of these guys that sell pictures for millions of dollars.
No, don't think about any of them, though. I'm just asking you, would you rather have the most well-known image and appreciated from an artistic standpoint or the highest selling image?
Again, it depends on the purpose and concept between that image. So, in my own work, I do a lot of commercial work that pays the bills, and then I do, art project work that's for me as an artist, and I have to separate those two. Like my Struggling Plant series. Yeah, it's important for me from a business standpoint and an artistic standpoint. So, like my Struggling Plant series, it'll show in galleries someday and things like that, but it's not necessarily going to hang on people's walls in their homes, where some of my landscapes absolutely hang in people's homes but don't necessarily show in galleries. And right now, both of those things are equally important to me because of my goal of teaching. You really have to play both fields well to have the right draw for the students and so on. So my portfolio I'm building not necessarily to be a Simon Norfolk or some of those guys I revere. My portfolio is, will this draw me the opportunities in the future that I'm looking for today?
What is that future?
So my future is teaching is what I'm passionate about. I've taught so many things in my life, but having worked with this Wounded Warrior Project this last year just really showed me how passionate I am about teaching art. I can't paint to save my life. I wish I could. I really revere that kind of art, but I can't do it. I don't have the natural ability. but I can teach anybody to make a better picture than they already make. It doesn't mean we can make everybody an artist, but we can improve their work, and it doesn't necessarily take a lot of raw talent like painting or playing the flute or violin or whatever. So, but watching these guys do some healing through some recreational art therapy has been just very significant in my life, seeing what they're able to do through the things I'm able to share. And so teaching's really the driving force behind everything I'm doing. There's the artist inside me that has to create because it has to create. That's just part of being an artist. And then there's the artist that creates something that will pay the bills because we want to still be the artist that creates. And then there's this significant part that says, I want to be able to pass this torch to somebody else so they can run farther down the field.
And you don't believe that the three can converge?
Not at this stage of the game, you know. And I look at people who are successful at holding workshops, seminars, you know, you yourself teaching in the Arcanum, etc. There's a lot of people that specialize and that's their niche, and you know, doing guided tours of Antelope Canyon for photo enthusiasts, you know, that's really cool the first 5 or 6 times you do it. But if you're going to be stuck doing that day after day forever, I think it's going to lose some of the beauty. And so for me, it's really important to have, you know, these separate identities that each allow me to express a different part of what it is that makes up Steve. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
You look at Paul Caponegro, for example, gifted artist, and one of his latest projects is shooting with an iPhone. You know, it's just
Yeah, Von
certainly
Long just did that too.
Yeah, and it's a totally different realm than his large format photography, you know, landscapes and stuff like that. But it's an important thing, and you know, he keeps things very distinct. He's the Photoshop guru teaching Photoshop classes in one life, and then he puts on a different hat, and he's this large format photographer that captures these amazing things in another. And then
Okay,
he's this
but
guy.
do you think that he's doing that for profit or for passion? Actually, let's table that and go back to the image, and we'll talk about that when we're done looking at the photos so we don't get too far off base. So we'll go back to the other one of the dog. I gotta tell you, I'm gonna give that one a 1. I think it's an awesome image, but I think that I could take that of my dog jumping in the pond. It's a lot of that is timing. And I think that you can get lucky with the light, and that cameras and camera phones are smart enough to read it to give you pretty much this shot if you just have the ability to stand and to catch it at that point. I actually think that the other ones that you showed of the dog, you know, where it's up and we're seeing more of its body, is a stronger image because we just have this round of fur that is pretty much his whole body. We're not seeing any of the legs or any of the figure. And so we have this great splash. It's a great action shot, but I feel like you got that same energy from the water with some of the other shots, and we got to appreciate the dog more. I feel like we were actually off a little bit on this one, and this would have been stronger if it was like half a second earlier before the frisbee and his face hit the water, because he's going face first into it. So I actually think that your other work is stronger from a photographic standpoint. You're right about the fact that there's more light on his face, but I think that you could have faked that in post to make up for it if you were at, you know, at the mercy of the moment and the circumstances and the location. So I totally see what you were going here, but seeing, you know, with critique, when you come, it's basically judging your images against your other images. So you kind of shot yourself in the foot by showing me the other work, because this would be choosing between the two. If I had to choose one, this would be the throwaway for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which it would be interesting, and I would like to see you post this one and the other one in the Convergence community, and let everybody, and just don't post anything else. Just say one of these is going to be the print for a client, you know, and it's for a dog park. They want it for the marketing materials. Which one? and
Well,
let them.
and again, yeah, separating those two, the one that's the print was the other one. That's what we did print.
Right.
But I agree. I think this is the more powerful photo artistically for lots of reasons.
Right. And so we can agree, and we're in agreement, correct, that the client may like it better from the standpoint of dog owner, dog lover, but that artistically this is a stronger image, yes?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Of course.
so let's put them both in and see what a group of your fellow creatives who are all artists and see things from photographic standpoints and light and composition, let's see which one they choose. I'm curious. And we'll see.
Okay.
I'm actually not genuinely sure, but I'm curious to see what someone besides us, because if you brought it to me and said, which one should I submit or which one's print worthy, I would pick the other one.
Well, but again, it depends on the audience. It always boils down to audience when you're making that determination.
But you were saying that the audience that you were selling the other one to is for the dog lover, and that this image was a stronger for a photographic audience, and I'm your photographic instructor. So am I not the second audience that should be appreciating this one more? I mean, I'm a dog lover too, but I'm looking at it in critique from a photographic standpoint.
Okay.
Oh, so I'm curious to see which one of us the majority sides with. So if we just post both of them and just say which one's the better image, I'm curious to see if they'll side with your image or with the one that they got the print of, just for sake of conversation, because it's a whole bunch of artists and creatives. And I would also be interested to see you do the same thing on like social media, where it opens up to everyone and not necessarily photographers, and see there too, because you may find that you're right. You may find that more of the artists connect with this one, and then when you put it out to just everyone, that everybody connects with the other one because there's more of a connection with the dog itself. Or the results may surprise you, but I would be curious to see, because it would help you look at things differently, I think, if you find the response is not what you're expecting. So
okay.
But I'm gonna give this one a 1, because I gotta say, I've seen some of your other work, and I don't think that this one's quite up to par that it would make your portfolio for me. So let's go to the next one, and we'll redeem. This one,
so
I love. Like, the lighting is fantastic. It's incredible from a photography standpoint. I love the texture of them. The expression is killer. You know, you can't get any better than that. The only real critique that I see, and this is probably personal preference, it's something about the way he's sitting and the way that you cropped it makes it look like he's got like a bone dislocated or something on the side. But I also know that those cats are really thin, bony cats to begin with, so that might work. But from a personal level, I probably would have softened that curve a little bit. The only other real thing is that the catch light in his left eye is kind of over dominating the pupil. But I think it's perfect in the right eye, and I don't know that there's anything that I guess you could go in and post really carefully and kind of shrink it, but that's a lot of work. But overall, this is just, you can't get much better than this when it comes to pet photography. The lighting's superb, the expression's there, you can see every piece of texture on the skin and the fur, like, it's awesome.
Hang on just 1 second. Can you hang on just 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. I had one of the dogs giving me the potty cry.
That's okay.
So yeah, on this particular image, the left eye really bothers me a lot, and I tried a lot of different things to fix it, but nothing short of photo montage was gonna make me happy with it. And photo montage, taken an eye out of another shot would have disqualified it for this competition. So
Gotcha.
I left it as is, and it was actually one of the judges that bought the piece. So I was really pretty proud of it. But yeah, that funny looking bone is actually the cat's shoulder, the way it's standing right there.
Yeah.
And I had to make the cross here because of how the owner was holding the cat. And I didn't want their hand in it, and I couldn't clone out the hand either. It would be not acceptable for the contest. So,
Gotcha.
but the use of Jurasco in this, and the repeating triangles and the texture, and I mean, it's a home run. I just love this shot.
Yeah, it's superb. It is. It's one of the best pet photography or animal photography pieces that I've seen in the Arcanum, not just in JLark.
Well, thank you. My strong suit's definitely dogs, but as far as cats go, this is hands down my best cat image of all time.
Okay, let's see what's next.
So this is very typical of my ongoing landscape work I do. I've got a project going generically right now called Seeking the Light. I'm still a big believer, through Wounded Warrior Project and personal experience, I'm a believer in recreational art therapy, and I've had a lifelong struggle with depression myself. And when I'm facing my hardest moments, it's images like this that get me back through, finding light in the storm or something like that. It just really grounds me again. It's an image that gives hope. The high contrast and dynamic range, just pulls in our eye. It makes us study. And we've all felt this in our life. I don't care who we are. We all feel this pull of the yin and the yang, the good and the bad, whatever labels we want to put on it. A moment like this where, the storm clouds are there and there's just a little bit of light breaking through, and you have a choice. Are you going to focus on those storm clouds, or are you going to focus on the light breaking through? So very typical of that project that I work on. And, an image that, gosh, there's just such great texture there in the clouds and such great diversity, between the blue sky up in the top right of the frame, the light beams and streaks, and the dark silhouette of the mountain. I just love this shot.
Nice. I like it too. It's very pretty. And I love the light streams and the rays. There's only a couple of things that jump out at me. Number one, in the top camera right, there's like this very, very solid, heavy, saturated blue that isn't showing up anywhere else. And so that distracts me, and it looks almost like an error in the camera, the recording of the information. So I'd be inclined to go in and tone that down to have it mesh up with the clouds a little bit more. I also really wish that we could see something of the landscape and the mountains. I feel like as is that there's not enough shape to them to warrant their existence in being just a silhouette. So it would almost make more sense to crop it and just have it be a sky photo. Unless there's some sort of visual intrigue. Otherwise, I don't feel like it's earning its place in the photograph. I do love the texture of the clouds. I do love that there's sort of these dark gray, almost stormy clouds, but there's so much sun and light pouring through the holes, and I do think that that's a great metaphor for life. So the image says something, which I think is really important. I'm going to give this one a 2. I think that it has a lot of promise and that you caught something, but I do think that there could have it needed something else to really take it up to the exceptional mark and make it something that would be portfolio worthy.
Okay.
Next one.
So this is another image from that project. This was taken just this summer, right as the wheat came full, and I was actually out specifically looking to make a wheat and tares image. That's, I don't know if they're religious now, but that's terrible. It's always in the back of my mind, always asking, am I the wheat or am I the tare? And this particular field, normally in agriculture down here, we we take what we call a wiper across the field as it's coming up, because the ryegrass grows so much taller faster that you basically have a contact bar that touches it all with poison and kills all of that. And this farmer didn't do anything for the rye. So we see all this tall ryegrass growing up through the tears, and that makes a good moment. And then this was the day before he was cutting his field, and I was waiting for sundown, and this storm came in. I'm thinking, oh crud, I'm not going to get my picture at all. But then I got a light in the cloud that lit up my field and left everything else dark and left the color in the sky. And I thought, man, this just says so much from the standpoint of the wheat, the tares, from the story of light and color, you know, from this whole struggle again. It was just a great, powerful moment.
I do like the juxtaposition of the warmth and all of this texture in the grass, and then the sort of softness of the clouds and how that fades into the really deep, cool colors and into the purples. I think it offers a lot of visual interest. The little strip of blue at the bottom, which isn't you, but you lose points anyway because you're the one composing the image. I feel like that sort of severs the feeling. Like this would actually probably be a stronger photograph if you took it all the way to the left and cropped it square. I feel like that's the only thing that's really cutting into the feeling that you were going for.
Well, I do have some from that series that are all of just the dark sky, but again, for part of this other project, I needed some of the hopeful sky, some of the break in the storm. So that's why this one deliberately does have that.
Okay. Here's the thing though, is that the story becomes more potent while you're telling it, but there is a lot of truth to the fact that an image is worth 1,000 words. So if the story isn't apparent to the viewer without you having to explain it, then it's a fail. Because 90% of the people that see your work now see it via social media, which doesn't mean that they have you there to explain it to them, especially if other people are sharing it. And the truth is that 90% of the people that do see it don't bother to read the description or anything with it. They just look at the photo and scroll on. So the image has to speak for itself. And so that message might be really apparent to you, and there might be other people that pick up on it that have been where you are. But overall, I think it would be a stronger image if it was cropped square and had the darkness. I think that works stronger from a photographic standpoint and a composition standpoint, and I think it allows well, I think you kind of have to decide who's the star of the image, because that blue sky, if that's the star of your image, then it might be better as more of a panorama shot where you cut out the majority of the wheat and make it about that sky and the light coming in. But I think that you have so much focus going in so many different directions that it's hard to kind of follow the storyline here. Does that make sense?
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I do have to agree to disagree with you that there is more to it. You know, look at Gerstie's Rhine 2, for example, a picture that sells for several $1 million. That's just a strip of grass, a strip of water, a strip of grass. And anybody looking at it that's not an artist is wondering why on earth that photo's worth millions of dollars. And so you have
there
to know
are plenty
more
of people that are artists that are looking at it and wondering why it's worth millions too.
Sure. But when you get more of the story, the pieces come together. And so this image as well, being part of a series, when you see 20 of these images in a row, and you have an artist statement to accompany it, it changes everything. I can understand what you're saying as a standalone image for Facebook. You know, that the white strip there is a highlight that draws the eye up and away from what you want. But as part of the series and the concept, I think it's an important component. So
Okay.
again, for me, it comes down to who are we creating it for? What's the concept driven behind it? You know, and most of my work now is concept driven. Where even just 2 years ago, I was just shooting for what will somebody buy. You know, will it go on a calendar? Will the client print it on their wall? And now I'm less worried about, is the client going to like it on Facebook, and more worried about, does it tell the story? Does it have the elements I want as part of my overall concept?
Well,
does that make sense?
That's, yeah, absolutely. And that's why I was asking you before, would you rather have the images that are known or the images that sell?
And
because they're two different mentalities. And you may be right that this may work as a stronger piece in a series, but then you have to be careful about making sure that, and I'm dealing with this too right now, so there are certain images in my most recent series that work great together as the series, but they will not get the positive response and the same amount of love as standalone pieces. So they won't make the gallery when it comes time, but they'll work as the collection in the books. So it may be a good lesson then if it's not going to be in understanding the composition or taking the critiques under advisement because you have a different thought in mind. Then the lesson may be in being able to pick out pictures to bring to critique that are standalone pieces and stand on their own merit without the support of the rest of the series behind them, which is, you're totally right, is two totally different shooting mentalities.
Right.
So, I would be interested to see the whole series and see it work together. That's definitely something that you can post in the cohort. But for me, as a standalone piece, it's not working.
Okay. Well,
and it's not that it's not working. It's not that it's not working. I should clarify. I think there are certain elements that could be added or subtracted to make it a stronger photo. It's working. It's not that it's not, but it's not that it's exceptional either. It's just, it's somewhere in the in-between range. And coming from a photographer that can produce a picture like that cat photo, I would expect more from you if that was the first image that I saw from you. And I feel like this one just isn't holding up to par on that because you set the bar so high. So you should definitely take it as a compliment.
Okay.
So, okay. Last one? Two more.
So this one is again part of my struggling plant series that we talked about. Again, part of a series, but I believe this one is a standalone image, even though it's part of the series work. A lot of concepts behind this.
Hang on. I'm still seeing the. Well, now I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing your icon, but I was still seeing the grass image. Now I'm not seeing anything. I think it's your connection. Hang on. There we go. There it is. Okay. Well, now I see me.
And that is the image again.
There we go. Okay. Now tell me.
So again, this one has a powerful artist statement behind it, a big concept. It's my thesis work, so there's lots going into it, but I feel as a standalone image, even if somebody doesn't understand what I'm saying with this or whatever, it's a grand image. I mean, it's a gorgeous moment, a gorgeous place. Sun, breaking through that tree, up at the top of Angel's Landing, 2,000-foot cliffs on each side, a rough hike to get there. There's just so much going into this picture that gives it value to me as the artist, but I think the viewer finds that value as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I really love this one too, and I think that this is definitely a standalone piece. I like the shadows and the light being dappled across the rocks. I love the roots reaching down, that we're kind of seeing it from that perspective, and then the color and the texture on the rocks behind. I'm not a huge fan of empty skies, especially when they're competing for half of the frame. So I think it would have did better if we had a little bit of texture, but you're kind of at the mercy. And if you're sort of a purist that how it is in camera is how you're doing, and we're not compositing or cutting things out, then that's just kind of what it is. But I think in this particular image that there's so much going on in the way of texture and information that it just sort of loses interest as it goes up. On the other hand, I wouldn't want to see the clouds behind the tree itself, because I think that that would probably compete with some of the branches, not to mention be a nightmare to composite. But I think one or two around the edges on either side probably would have helped just sort of ground and center the tree. But that's really the only serious critique I have. The light's beautiful. You kept all the texture. There's a lot of warmth and a lot of cool going on. So you have this full color range, which I think is really appealing to the whole thing. And I love the perspective that you chose to shoot from, where it looks like the tree's kind of reaching for you. The only other real critique that I have, which again is really not something that you can amend greatly, is that you have the strip of highlight where the tree isn't offering any kind of shading going down. So that highlight coming off, we lose just a little bit of the rocks, and it's bright enough that you want to kind of follow that down and off the screen instead of staying and continuing on with the tree in the picture visually. So it just makes it feel a little bit lopsided to one side because of how hot the highlights are, mostly because that's the only place that the highlights are, because that's where the sun was. But it's minor. That's me nitpicking more than anything else. So I think that this one gets a 3 as well. I think for what I've seen of your work, that this is exceptional comparatively.
Thank you. I love this one. Between the warm, cool contrast, the cyan, magenta, the lines that lead us and tell the story. I mean, good grief, a pinyon pine growing out of solid sandstone. You know,
Yeah.
it's been there for 150 years, not complaining, just simply growing through hard craft. And look at the view it's got to wake up to every day. You know, it was worth it.
Absolutely. Okay, we have one more.
No, that was it. One,
that was
2,
it.
3, 4, 5.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, well, you passed level 4, which is awesome. You can turn off the screen share. You just go up and click the same button. And then, so now we get to have a conversation about what you're doing here.
Okay.
So what are you doing here?
Well, thankfully I was accepted into your cohort. Again, my goal is to teach in the Arcanum. That's the whole purpose for going through the process, is again to teach. So, you know, it's I'm developing my craft and hopefully getting some tune-ups along the way, but the goal being to get to that point of teaching.
Okay. And are you doing any teaching now, or are you working full-time as a photographer?
Well, I teach with the Wounded Warrior Project and some community classes. I'm finishing up my MFA at Academy of Art University. So I'll be teaching full-time hopefully next year. But I'd like to teach here as part of my bigger picture.
What is your big picture?
Again, because there's different audiences. You teach an academic community differently than you teach veterans with PTSD, differently than you teach your community class, differently than you teach your online class. You know, it's wearing all those different hats that add spice and variety to my life and satisfaction. Really, you know, I don't like trying to be academic with the Wounded Warriors, for example. It has no value for them. The conversation is about art and feelings and expression, you know, where in academia we're talking about different things. It's technical things, it's concept, it's how does this relate to picturesque paintings from the 1800s, you know, on and on. So all these different things all have their place, but I like to keep them in neat little boxes on a shelf instead of all tied together.
And what would the Arcanum be bringing to the table from the standpoint of teacher?
It's a different kind of community for me, because it's a group of people that are photo enthusiasts and artists and commercial artists, and you know, there's people here just for strokes of their ego. You know, there's people who are honestly trying to learn, that are starting from ground zero. You know, there's a variety of people and all of them have different destinations. You know, not everybody in our cohort, for example, wants to be a professional photographer, or not everybody wants to shoot portraits or whatever. So everybody's going somewhere else, and it kind of makes the journey more exciting. I hate that in academia, for example, everything is nailing you into one area. You're going to be this, you're going to be that, you're a still life, your photo montage, or whatever, and those are the people you deal with. That's what you talk about, and I think that really stifles creativity. But and there are those that argue against that, but the reality is it's really not my personality. There's people who want to do just one thing and do it really well, and I can understand that. But you know, I'm an ADHD kid, have been my whole life, and bouncing from thing to thing to thing is what drives my life. And you take that away, and my life's pretty boring because I've had all this other stimulation my whole life.
Right.
So,
Now,
the
are you military too?
No, actually, no.
Okay.
Just have a lot of compassion for those guys for doing something I wasn't willing to go do. And all politics aside, because that's a whole other side of me. They're doing what they were asked to do, and they're doing regardless of whether the wars or not. The problem is, I definitely don't think we should abandon these guys when they get home. I mean, they come home really, really broken, and they come home to nothing. There's no homecoming parade. There's no rah rah. Thank you very much. It's just, all right, we put you through that, and we broke you. Now try to integrate back into society. And I have a lot of compassion for those people.
Well, I'm a military wife and a military daughter and a military sister and a military, so I can totally relate. You're pulling on heartstrings. As far as, well, let's step back. What does success look like for you? What is your ideal life?
So if I were to just define that word success means I get to do what I want when I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, a lot of people say retirement is you don't have to go to work. That sounds kind of boring to me. What retirement would be I go work at what I want to as much as I want to. And that's why teaching is so important to me. If there's some dollars in it, fantastic. But the teaching part of me does it because I can't help but teach. It's my nature. The artist part of me, we can't help but create. There's something inside of us that has to come out. And so that's what art is. It's that expression that has to be made. And so for me, success is I get to keep doing what I want to do instead of doing what somebody's telling me to do.
Okay. What do you feel like you have left to accomplish as far as being a student and growing in your artistry?
Certainly finishing the MFA is that piece of paper that says you've arrived. It's irrelevant of what your art is really. You know, it's just somebody's affirmation. But to me, it's an important piece of paper. You know, it took money and time and learning and growth to get there, and so it is an important part of the journey. But I don't think I'm ever going to get to the point where I say, you know, I've arrived. If I look around, I would have had to say that a long time ago. You know, I've got great equipment. I've had great adventures. I've made some great images. I've learned a lot. And when I look at the images I made as a 10-year-old with my Kodomatic versus what I make today, you know, I have to say, good grief, that's success. I got there. But I'm not happy there. You know, I'm learning that even though I was making beautiful landscape images, you know, years ago, there wasn't much concept behind them. They were just pretty pictures. And, you know, now I'm at a different stage of evolution where it can't be just a pretty picture. It has to say something to me as the artist, not just to a client and so on. So I see this as a journey that just keeps going. You know, the growth is going to continue. I'll certainly be better 20 years from now than I am today. And I'm better today than I was 20 years ago. Where when I was a younger man, it seemed more like a destination. You know, get the degree, you're done. You know, get the job, you're done, whatever. Now life just looks different to me.
Mm. So what is it that you think that you would bring to the Arcanum that would put you ahead of all the other people trying to become masters? Because there's a lot of them.
I can imagine. So I think what I bring to the table, I'm not saying nobody else does, but certainly my strengths are my compassion for people. You know, I really do care about people. For example, Harold, you know, he was getting so upset feeling like I was picking on him, and I'm like, Harold, I'm really not. I'm trying to connect with you and get going down this road together. Uh, it's not about ego. Somebody look at me. I'm the picture of success. Be like me. It's more about, okay, can I help you farther down the road than where you are today? And it's genuine. I just really do care about people. The second thing I bring is that I've done lots of different things instead of focused on a thing. I'm not just a landscape shooter. I'm not just a pet photographer. I've got some perspective from a lot of areas that helps me be more open to other people's work. For example, I've never shot nudes, but I can certainly be open to other people's work because I've done lots of different kind of work too. So variety and compassion, but mostly it's really passion. A lot of people want to teach for the wrong reasons. Some of them want to teach for the right reasons, and I believe I've got the right reasons. It's really about helping people. I don't have to be the best photographer in the world to make somebody else a better photographer than they already are. And that's really what I'm about is, can I help you farther down your road instead of saying, I know you and I had a little disagreement on that whole light thing, but for Harold, it's not, Harold, you've got to see this my way. It was Harold way because I don't think we're talking the same language. And and that really is the essence of Steve, is not that you have to walk my road, but can I help you on your own road?
Okay. All right. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch base about while we were live in the critique?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. I'm gonna